Centuries ago, in a small, isolated village in Eastern Europe, a terrible curse was born. The legend spoke of a nobleman, Vladislav, who turned to dark rituals to gain eternal life. What he didn't anticipate was the price he'd pay: an unquenchable thirst for blood. Now a vampire, he stalked the night, draining the life from the villagers to sustain his immortality. The village was gripped with terror as the bodies of its people began to turn up, pale and lifeless, with 2 small puncture wounds on their necks. The first to fall victim was a young woman who had wandered too close to Vladislav's castle one fateful night. She was found the next morning, her blood drained, her face frozen in fear. Whispers of a vampire began to spread, and the villagers lived in constant fear of who would be next. With each new night, Vladislav grew bolder. He stalked the streets under the cover of darkness, his footsteps silent, his presence unnoticed until it was too late. The villagers barricaded their homes, hanging garlic and crucifixes in a desperate attempt to ward off the vampire. But Vladislav was cunning, slipping through cracks and shadows, always finding a way to quench his thirst. Hope arrived in the form of a stranger, an experienced vampire hunter named Nikola. Armed with knowledge of ancient rites and rituals, he promised the villagers that he could rid them of Vladislav's curse. The villagers, desperate for salvation, placed their faith in Nikola, unaware of the danger and the deadly battle that lay ahead. Nikola wasted no time preparing for his confrontation with Vladislav. He ventured into the forest, toward the ancient castle where the vampire had made his lair. Inside, the air was thick with decay, and the halls echoed with the faint whispers of the undead. The vampire's crypt lay hidden beneath the castle, a labyrinth of dark passages and forgotten tombs. It was here that Nikola would face Vladislav in a battle of life and death. Deep within the crypt, Nikola found Vladislav resting in his coffin, surrounded by ancient bones and relics of his past life. But as Nikola raised his stake, the vampire awoke. With lightning speed, Vladislav leaped from his coffin, his eyes glowing red and his fangs bared. The two fought fiercely, Nikola armed with sacred weapons and rituals, and Vladislav wielding his supernatural strength and speed. The battle raged through the crypt, with Nikola barely able to hold his own against the vampire's power. After a brutal and exhausting fight, Nikola managed to land a decisive blow. He drove the wooden stake through Vladislav's heart, and the vampire let out a piercing scream as his body began to wither and turn to ash. The ancient curse was finally broken, but the victory was bittersweet. Nikola knew that Vladislav was not the first, nor would he be the last of his kind. There would always be more vampires hiding in the shadows, waiting to strike. With Vladislav's death, the village was finally free from the terror that had gripped it for so long. The sun rose over the village for the first time in weeks, and the villagers rejoiced in their newfound safety. But the cost of the victory weighed heavily on them. Many had lost loved ones to the vampire's bloodlust, and the fear of his return lingered in their hearts. Still, they could rest for now, knowing that their homes were safe from the blood-drinking fiend. Though Vladislav was vanquished, the world of vampires is vast and ancient. Unknown to the villagers, far to the north in another forgotten castle, another vampire had sensed Vladislav's demise. This vampire, older and far more dangerous, stirred from its slumber, eager to reclaim the legacy of terror that Vladislav had started. The villagers may have won a brief reprieve, but the darkness would soon return. As Nikola left the village, he knew that his work was far from done. There were still vampires out there, hidden in the shadows, waiting for their chance to strike. The battle between the living and the undead would continue for centuries, an endless struggle between light and darkness. For now, the village was safe, but Nikola knew that the bloodthirsty creatures of the night would return.